Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is going to be a mild Friday compared to how it has been. Currently 49 degrees, high of 71, so almost 20 degrees cooler than the last few days. Um, when there's some chance of rain overnight, 5:04 is the sunrise and 8:39 is the sunset. So we lost a minute since the last time we looked at it. Um, so the as summer rolls on, and um, I don't expect it to be in the 70s all summer. It's gonna get back up into the 90s, at least 1 or 2 days. It's gotta be up here in Canada South, 1 or 2 days. um, but we um, we are in a study of Esther, and I don't know. We might finish it. I'll see. I got pray on it. I'm I'm feeling the urge to move on, but there's still a couple chapters left after chapter 8. Um, but it is Friday, and as always, I would be remiss if I didn't just pray and pray that God helps us make it to church, but helps you make it to church as well, and that you have a desire. I have a desire to go, no matter what, because it is good. Psalm 133 says, "Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for the brethren to dwell together in unity." Dwell together in unity together. Um, it is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went all the way down to the skirts of his garments. Right? It is supposed to be. It's anointed, right? An anointing ointment. And verse 3, as the dew of Hermon and the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. See, in that gathering of unity of believers, of belief, right? It it um it leaves something like dew, right? Like dew in the early morning. It leaves, it covers, right? It covers all the grass. That's what it is for us when we gather together, and it's anointed, and we're blessed. We are covered. We're covered when we do that, guys. It's so important that we make it to church. So important. Um, and that's where we get to be challenged by the preaching. Go to a Bible preaching church, y'all. Go to one that preaches sound doctrine. That word is what separates the sin from the innermost self. Oh, we need it so much, and we're sanctified. We're encouraged from the saints, by the saints. Can't stress it enough. Can't stress it enough. So, Esther chapter 8. So, um, just a little review. The Esther threw a second house party for the king and Haman. She revealed what Haman did to Mordecai and who Mordecai was after Haman had dressed him, and um, in God's sovereignty, he reversed the positions, and Haman's dream. Haman had to carry out on Mordecai, right? Dressed him up, put the robe of the king, and brought him about the city in front of everybody, and Esther then revealed it. The king got mad. He hung Haman on the gallows that he made, that was at his house, waiting for Mordecai. And on that, when he did that, it says the wrath of the king abated. That's chapter 7, verse 10. Now, on that day, on the day that his wrath abated, that he hung him, King Ahasuerus gave to Queen Esther the house of Haman, the enemy of the Jews. Okay, so the enemy of the Jews was put under Esther, right? Who was essentially at this point the queen of the Jews. And Esther put Mordecai over the house of Haman. Okay, so a complete reversal to the proper order of things. And we looked at Genesis 3:15 for that. And then the king took off his signet ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. And um, Esther and Esther sent Mordecai over to the house of Haman. Then Esther spoke again to the king, and she fell to her feet and wept and pleaded with him to avert the evil plan from Haman the Agagite and the plot that was devised against the Jews. So after this, she begged the king to remove the decree that he had put in for all the Jews to be killed. That coffee is good in the morning, I tell you. And verse 4, when the king held out the golden scepter to Esther, Esther rose and stood before the king. She was justified, right? That scepter, that it made her righteous, right? When we fall on our feet and we call out the name of the Lord and we're saved, right? What are we saved from? We're saved from the wages of sin. We're justified, right? We're justified. And here's verse 5. She said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in your sight, and if the thing seems right before the king, and I am pleasing in the eyes, let an order be written to revoke the letters devised by Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, which he wrote to destroy the Jews who are in all the provinces of the king. For how can I bear to see the calamity that is coming to my people, or how can I bear to see the destruction of my kindred? So you have the justification, right? The ruling, right? The scepter, but you also have the regeneration, right? A complete regeneration of a complete heart, right? And if it please the king, and if I have found favor in thy sight, and if the thing seems right before the king, and if I am pleasing in the eyes of the king. So all these statements about how he sees her, right? If it please, if I have found, if the thing seems right, and if I am pleasing. So if the things that I'm saying, if I look right, if I sound right, if I act right, if the things I say are right, right? So there's a showing of a complete regeneration of the heart after the justification. And so, she's walking the walk. She's walking the walk. And she's lifting up others as she does it, the rest of her people. Then King Ahasuerus, verse 7, said to Queen Esther and Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and they have hanged him on the gallows, because he intended to lay hands on the Jews. But you may write as you please with regard to the Jews in the name of the king, and seal it with the king's ring, for an edict written in the name of the king and sealed with the king's ring cannot be revoked. So, he then tells them they can write the next writ or edict and seal it with the king's ring, and it stand. So they got to speak for the king. I said write because that's what it says, but you may write. Okay. Then the king's scribes were summoned at the time in the 3rd month, which is the month of Sivan, on the 23rd day, and an edict was written according to Mordecai, commanded concerning the Jews, to the satraps and the governors and the officials and the provinces of from India to Ethiopia, 127 provinces, to each province in its own script. So when the Lord, he speaks to us how we need to be spoken to, so that we can understand, okay, or so that we can comprehend. Okay, there's a lot in the scriptures that we will not understand until the appropriate time. He reveals it as it needs to be revealed. We do not have complete understanding now. We will get that when we go home. But he makes it so we can comprehend. Right? He makes it so we can comprehend. We know the words when it's revealed to us, when it's sent to us. And think about the translations of the Bible that he has preserved over time in how many different languages for how many different peoples. The Word of God, right? He makes it so that we can comprehend. And as he reveals through our relationship with him, our study, our a desire to get to know him, he reveals more about himself, right? And that's where that's understanding. And he wrote in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed it with the king's signet ring. And then he sent the letters by mounted couriers riding on swift horses, and were using the king's service, bread from the royal stud. Bread from the royal stud. Saying that the king allowed the Jews who were in every city to gather and defend their lives, to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate any armed force of any people or province that might attack them, children and women included, and to plunder their goods. On one day throughout all the provinces, King Ahasuerus, on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. So, in the authority of the king, he gave the Jews the right, or the power to gather, defend their lives, right? And this is all in verse 11, to destroy, to kill, and annihilate any armed force of any people or province that might attack them, children and women included. So, women and children. Now, remember, in I think it's Matthew 24, talks about if anyone feeds and clothes my children, they have seen me, right? God always takes care of, and we are supposed to take care of the women and children, and he empowers them, right? He empowers them. But notice it's to gather. The first thing, gather. Guys, don't forsake the gathering of the brethren. It is blessed, right? It's the first thing in this list. Defend their lives. You guys, we do not battle against the flesh, but of powers, principalities, the demonic forces, the Satan himself, right? The spirit of, we looked at in here, the spirit of Babylon, spirit of Haman, the spirit of slumber, spirit, like, there's all these demonic forces that rise up against us and attacks people and uses people to attack us. And that's the enemy, right? That's the seed of Satan. And you can look at Ephesians 1 and 2, chapters 1 and 2, and that Genesis 3, I think 12 through 15, right? And this is off the top of my head, but check it out. It's somewhere around there, I promise you that, though. These are the descendants of Satan, the seed of Satan. All right, and we can defend ourselves, defend our lives, right? Defend our lives. To what end? To destroy, to kill, and to annihilate. How do we do that? Prayer. actually prayer and fasting, right? Prayer and fasting in the Spirit, prayer and fasting in the Spirit, pray in the Spirit, fast in the Spirit, with God, okay? Coming together with God, gathering together. So going to church, praying, knowing the Word, using the Word as a weapon against the demonic, right? And in the end, now we don't have the power to do any of this killing and annihilation of any armed force, but guess who does? Guess who does? The King, right? The King. The King does. All right, y'all. I'm gonna end it there. Maybe we'll pick up a verse in chapter 9 next week. Guys, have a great weekend. Don't forsake the gathering, right? Get together, y'all. Get together. Uh, get in the Word. Study this stuff for yourself, you guys. Study it for yourself. Check these things out. I think it's fascinating stuff. It's wonderful stuff. Have a great weekend, guys.